StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how I hire staff. Before we get into this, I remind you of two things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation text messages, those go out every single day and week to the people, respectively, to the people who are in my texting community. It is free to join the community. So all you got to do is text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894. And once we have those messages actively going out again, everybody who's in my text community, you'll just start getting them immediately. You won't have to do anything. You'll just get them immediately. Also, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where I do all my coaching. If you would like to have me as a direct coach, if you would like to have me as a person who you can share your ideas with, share your challenges with, you want to be in a mastermind group with not only myself, but other members of our university program. So you can talk with other entrepreneurs, any of you out there who feel like you're doing everything by yourself right now, or other professionals, you feel like you are just isolated, you don't have anyone to talk to or share ideas with, or just you just have a quick question about certain things, but you don't even know who to go to, and you don't want to just rely on Google because you have no idea of how reputable the information is you're getting there. I feel you. That's the reason why we created the university. So go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You can sign up and get started and be in the university within the next 30 seconds. All you got to do is go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Link is down below in the description. With that out the way, let's get into this topic here today, which is how I hire staff. Now, this is a subject that I was talking to one of my coaching members at university, and they were asking about how I hire people because they are this particular person at that time when they asked the question, they were in the process of launching a new business. And I was also asked about it in one of my group coaching calls. And they were asking about hiring people. How do you hire people? How do you vet the right people, et cetera, and avoid, of course, costly pitfalls and mistakes? So I'm going to do this episode to give you a high level understanding of how I do this. And there are many more details that I'm not going to go into here because I could literally teach an entire course on this. And now that I'm saying it, I probably will create a whole course on how to actually hire staff. But for any of you who runs a business and either has already or you plan on hiring and training people to work for you, this is an important topic because making the wrong decisions or executing improperly when it comes to hiring can be a very costly thing. So I'm going to talk about how I hire in this episode, and tomorrow I'm going to talk about how I train people. So this episode will be how I hire people. How do I actually pick a person who's going to work for me? And then tomorrow I'm going to talk about how I train someone once I've hired them to work for me, because both of these there is a process to be followed. There are steps to be followed, and there are mistakes that get made when people do not follow these steps properly. So again, today and tomorrow, I'm going to give you high level understandings of both of these. If you want to get into more detail on how these things work, then I would suggest you go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, join our group mastermind. You can get direct access to me in our bi-monthly coaching calls, get access to our university material, get our free physical mailings we send out every month, a black book and a bulletproof bulletin, and get started in your journey in the work on your game world. So today, again, we're talking about hiring. So any of you who runs a business, this is very important. So when you make hiring mistakes, they will cost you. They'll cost you in time, they'll cost you in money, and they'll cost you in energy because you got to go do it all over again. So let me tell you the things that I do when it's done properly, because I made mistakes too. So that's why I can document this and tell you where the mistakes happen. And I'm going to point those out here today as well. So I know what the right way looks like. I also know the wrong way, what it looks like as well. Point number one, topic here today is how I hire staff. Number one, your key to hiring staff is the job posting. The key to hiring the right person for your job is the job posting. Now, I'm not saying that's the whole thing. It's not like you're going to hire someone just because they responded to the job posting, but the job posting is probably, I would say, the most critical piece of hiring staff is the job posting. Same way that in sales, the most critical piece of sales is the lead flow. The lead being, what type of people are you attracting to a sales conversation, and how predisposed are they to say yes to whatever it is that you're offering? The quality of your leads determines the quality of your selling. So the key in sales is not the sales conversation. It is not your sales pitch. It is not the price of your product. It is not the design of your website. It is what is the quality of the leads that you are actually getting to sit down in front of. Leads being people who are interested in your thing. What's the quality of the person you're getting to sit down in front of? And that's based on your marketing. Everybody understand what I'm saying here? And when it comes to hiring people, because you're selling the job, you're selling the prospect of the job. Everybody follow? You're selling the prospect of the job. What makes sales work? Marketing. When the marketing is done right, selling is easy. When the marketing is done poorly, selling is very difficult. You can be the best salesperson in the world. If your marketing is shitty, your sales will suffer. And if you're a average salesperson, but your marketing is amazing, you will do great at selling. You will basically, as they say, outkick your coverage. You will have better sales numbers than your skills suggest you should have, simply because your leads are really good. So quality of leads is super important in any form of sales, and hiring someone for a job is a sale. Okay, even though you're paying, it's still a sale because you are selling someone on coming to work for you. And I would assume all of you want a really good person working for you, right? You want good, quality, skilled, talented, dedicated, loyal people working for you, right? So you have to sell them, because people who are all those things, they have options. Now, you ain't their only option. So you have to sell them on taking your job. So your posting is very important. There is no right way, so to speak, to do a job posting, but the posting should be designed in such a way that it attracts your ideal people and rejects your less than ideal people. The more clear and specific you can be about the job, what it is, who it's for, who it's not for, the better the chances that the candidates you want are attracted to the job posting. And again, you want the candidates to be reflective of the type of people or person who you actually want to hire. So if you post a job posting and you don't like the candidates who are coming through, now of course you're going to have to filter some out all the time. But assuming you've filtered down to, let's say, the best of what you've gotten, if you don't like those candidates, it's probably something with your job posting you need to fix. It's not the people. It's not the market. It's not that there are no good people to come work. And there are a lot of business owners who tell themselves that. It's not that. It's your job posting is not attracting the right type of people. So if you're getting a lot of trashy candidates, doesn't mean that there are only trashy candidates out there in the marketplace. There are good ones out there, but the good ones saw your job posting and it didn't look like it was for them. And that's why they moved on to something else. So you need to fix the job posting so you can attract the right people. So me being in sales, for example, if I don't like the type of prospects who I'm getting on sales calls with, I'm not talking down about the prospects I'm talking to. It's what about my marketing is leading these people to getting on sales calls with me. I need to change my marketing so that these people are not getting on the calls and I'm getting the kind of people I do want on the calls. All right, that's me. That's a me issue. That's not a them issue. That's a me issue. So we always got to look in the mirror, folks, and figure out what can we do to take control of a situation. That's a principle right there for you. Whenever things are not working in your favor or the way you want them to be, don't look at the outside and figure out or ask yourself, what can the outside world do to adjust to me? Because the outside world may not be privy to adjusting for you, but you can always adjust yourself. You always have control over that. So if you don't like your candidates, it's not the job market, it's the job posting. And there are 8 billion people on the planet, folks, remember, not all of them have jobs, but they're looking. And there are always good, useful people who are available. All right, so your posting is the magnet that attracts these people or rejects these people. So when I do job postings, I get very specific. I give detail. My job descriptions, when I'm hiring, especially for something like my executive assistant role, they are long and they're detailed. Actually, any job posting that I do is long and detailed because I know how to put them together the right way. And I do it this way because my assistant must be a detailed person. For example, if I'm hiring for my assistant, it's a very detailed job posting because I want them to read every detail and understand the details, because if they work for me, they better read and understand details, because if they miss details, they can't work for me. So I'm just giving you an example here. And it needs to hold the attention span. And I need the person who I hire to have the attention span to pay attention to lots of information and don't miss details, because that's how I work. And that's how things get done around here. And if you're going to be my assistant, then, I mean, any of you who's ever worked as an executive assistant, you understand that your job is to notice every detail. The ones that maybe your boss didn't notice, that's your job. That's the reason why you're there, to see what they don't see, to be the extra set of eyes and ears. So based on your company and the kind of work that you're hiring for, because you might be hiring with somebody to be a cook at your restaurant, maybe they don't need to be as detail oriented as an executive assistant, but your job posting needs to be as detailed and specific about the job as possible. And again, depending on how you set things up, it should be reflective of who and what you are looking for. Point number 2. Topic, once again, is how I hire staff. Number 2, hire slow, fire fast. Hire slow, fire fast. This is something that if you've ever hired staff, you've probably heard someone say this before. I find it to be a very accurate and useful piece of advice, if you will. Take your time when hiring people. All right, what that means is the hiring process can be arduous, sometimes borderline tedious for you and also for the person who is looking to be hired. I'm talking to, actually, as a member of my university right now, I'm talking to this gentleman. He is in the process of looking for a new job. He has a job, he's trying to leave that job and get a new job. And from what he's told me, he's going through rounds and rounds and rounds of interviews. And I didn't know this was a thing. I don't have a ton of experience looking for a job in the like serious professional job market. The only job market where I ever really looked for a job was as a basketball player. Other than that, I was getting jobs that are relatively entry level, like working at gyms as a membership salesperson, working at places like that, working at CVS, working at the movie theater. You go to one job interview, the person says yes or no, you start working. But at the high level professional jobs where people are making the kind of money where you be working full, I mean, you're making enough money to take care of yourself and your family, a full-time salary. It looks like these days, I don't know if this has always been like this, but I know it is these days, the people I've talked to, that you're going through 4 and 5 and 8 rounds of interviews before you get hired for the job. That's a very arduous process. That can become very tedious. And you got to keep showing up for all these interviews, and they keep interviewing you, and they're interviewing all these other people, and you go through 8 rounds of interviews and not get the job offer. I'd be kind of pissed if I had to do all that and not get hired for the job. But I will say, as a entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a person who does hiring, I understand. I understand why companies send you through all those rounds of hiring. There's a guy I know. He's not a member of our university, but I've talked to him. He was working at, I think he still works there. Last I heard from him was he was working at Google. And he went through like 8 rounds of interviews and got the job. But 8 rounds of interviews, like, damn, Google, y'all need 8 rounds to figure it out. Again, I understand. I know why they're doing it. And there are several reasons why. And if you work with me directly in my coaching program, I'll explain to you these things, especially if you're working with me personally and you're looking to hire people. I'll explain these things to you so that you understand how to put together your job postings. But you have to be very detailed, and you have to send people through these processes because it helps you filter. One thing, it helps you filter, and the second, it helps you understand who you're talking to. So these processes can take weeks or months. And sometimes when I'm hiring, I have taken weeks. I don't know if I've ever taken months, plural. I may be taking a month to hire a person. And the reason why is because of the concept: hire slowly, fire quickly. Now, while it would be great to have someone just apply for a job and have them working 2 days later, and maybe you, if you're applying for jobs right now, you would like to do that. You would like to apply for a job and be working tomorrow. I found that personally, anytime I've tried to do that and I try to shortcut my normal process, and I try to shortcut the process that works, and I try to do it quickly, let's say, all right, I'm only going to do one interview. I'm going to put out the job posting. I see somebody respond. I'm going to ask them a question or two and they sound good. Then I'm going to get them on a call for an interview. And then I like them in the interview. They ace the interview. I just hire them. And then 2 days later, they're working. Anytime that I've done that, and trust me, I had done it a few times. Every single time it was a mistake, and I ended up needing to fire that person. And I did so relatively quickly. And every time I had to fire that person who I hired too fast, it was not because there was anything wrong with them. It's because I did not do my job of following my own process of hiring slowly. And when I say hire slowly, I don't mean just take your time just to say you're taking your time. You need a process to follow here. I have a process for how I hire. And anytime I've tried to shortcut that process, and I did it a couple times, 2 people I'm thinking of specifically. So there was one person I hired because, I had an assistant who was really great. She left for a higher paying gig because I trained her so well and made her so good that she basically worked her way to a higher position job somewhere else. Someone hired her away for triple the salary that I was paying her. And when she left, I wanted to fill her void as quickly as possible. So I went and hired a new assistant, but I didn't take a long time in the hiring process because I wanted somebody in quick. I was basically filling the emotional void of not having an assistant by trying to do it quickly and not following my process the right way. And that was a bad idea. And the person I hired worked for me for about 3 weeks, and then I had to fire her because I took too long to hire. Went too quickly hiring her, didn't vet her properly. She probably would not have made it through had I vetted her properly. And then I shortcutted the training process also because I wanted her to be the person she was replacing really quickly, and didn't consciously consider the fact that it took me a while to build my previous assistant up to the level that she was at. And I was trying to shortcut the process. I was basically thinking more emotionally than logically. And I ended up having to fire that woman. And it was a mistake by me that cost me, it cost her. And then I had to go through the whole thing all over again. And then another time, I was replacing an assistant, or I was either replacing one or I was without an assistant, but I was ready to hire one. And I went to someone I knew and I asked them, do you know anyone? And they said, I know somebody. And they recommended a person, and I hired this person based on the recommendation. This was also a mistake. Hiring directly based off of recommendation is a mistake. So even if someone was to recommend me a person and I trust their recommendation, I'm going to still send the candidate through my process as if they didn't come as a recommendation. Why? Because the one time that I short-circuited my process because a person came as a recommendation, I ended up having to fire them. Not because there was anything wrong with that person. Again, because I made the mistake of not following my process. I tried to shortcut the process, and it cost me because I used up that time and that money with that person, had to fire them. It cost them because they had a job for a couple of weeks and then got fired, and nobody won anything. Nobody gained anything in that process. Well, one thing I did gain is I got to tell this story. That's the one thing I got out of it. But you don't want to shortcut your process. This is why we have processes. So all you have to do is follow them, and you don't have to think. Just follow the process. So anytime I tried to shortcut it, I made a mistake. In my experience, the longer you take to hire a person, and even if they find themselves, and any of you who's gone through the hiring process in the professional world, you know what it's like to go through all these rounds of interviews. And you have to jump through all those hoops in order to get the job. You got to climb to the top of the mountain in order to get the job. Usually, you are a better quality candidate than the person who didn't have to do all that stuff. Would you agree? That's usually how it ends up. You end up being a better candidate. And if you get the job, usually end up being a better worker, and you more value the job you have because of everything you had to do to get it. This is just how it works. This is just a paradox of life. Things that we get easily, we do not value. Things that we invest in through time, money, attention, energy, focus, we value them more. And we end up making more of those things because we invested in them. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how I hire staff. Number 3, you must make your hiring process reflective of the job. Your process should be reflective of the job itself. So whatever the job is, your hiring process should feel like what the job's going to be like. So again, I hire people to do work that is a lot of times online. Many times I'm hiring executive assistants. These are people who are working hand in hand with me. I'm talking to them. I'm in constant contact with them every single day. So it's a very personal role that this person has in working with me. They know pretty much everything about me and everything that's going on. Now, you, on the other hand, might be hiring a busboy for your restaurant. That's a different process. It's a different type of job, different type of relationship with you. Your hiring process should be reflective of the job so that you can get a feel for how they're going to do the job. So the way I hire my executive assistant is not the way you're going to hire the busboy or the line cook at your restaurant, and vice versa. So some people have asked me about giving prospects. I get people asking me this. Do you ever give your prospect a test task to show that they are qualified to do the job that they're applying for? There are times when that makes sense, and there are times when it doesn't make sense. So me as an executive assistant, when I'm hiring an executive assistant, rather, I used to be of the school of thought I should give them a test task to see what they do and see how they figure it out. But I have found in my experience, it doesn't really show me, it doesn't really prove anything to me. It proves to me, what it really proves is how good is a person at sleuthing. Sleuthing is like, I give you a task and I don't maybe give you complete information and see if you can just figure it out, and how good is somebody at putting the right prompt into a Google search, or how well they can source information. Based on the way that I train, which I'm going to talk about in tomorrow's episode, and based on the way that my jobs are set up, I don't need someone to have that ability because I will teach them how to do it. That's part of our process over here at Work on Your Game. I will train you on how to look for certain information. Here's the information I need you to get. Here's how you enter it into our system. If something is missing, here's how you go look for it. Here's one resource to find it. Here's a second. Here's a third. If this is missing, you come tell me and I'll train you on how to fix this. If that's not working, I'll tell you how to do it. So I basically train people from the ground up on how to do everything I want them to do. Whereas, on the other hand, some of you in the kind of jobs that you hire for, maybe you need someone to come in with some built-in skills. Now, if you need that, then you should give them a test task and let them prove that they have that built-in skill, whatever it is. So, for example, if you're Google or Facebook and you're hiring a coder, You might give them some code and say, all right, find the errors in this code and fix it. Or make up some code that does A, B, C and let them prove that they actually know how to code. That makes sense. If you're them, it doesn't make sense for me because I have a certain type of job and I want it done a certain way and I'm going to teach you how. Whereas Google or Facebook, they have a certain type of job and they teach it a certain way. So it depends on the work that you're doing. So there's some nuance, a lot of nuance that's involved in this, depending on the job and depending on who you're hiring. The point is you need to have a process. Right? Everybody, I've said that so many times here today. And not every process is going to be the same, but there must be a process. Okay? Everybody got it? Okay. So I do advocate doing this depending on the job, but not every job. My type of work is really based on, again, I teach you exactly what I want and exactly how I want things done. And if you are like that, then I get a test task doesn't really prove anything because the thing that they prove to you, you might not want them using that skill anyway, because you're going to tell them how you want them to do things, not their way, but your way. So if they were doing a different type of work, again, test task makes sense. So the hiring process for me, I have a lot of back and forth communication with candidates, or there will be, whether I'm doing it or I have somebody else doing the hiring process for me. There's a lot of back and forth communication happening in the hiring process. And the reason why is because the type of job that I'm hiring for, there's a lot of back and forth communication. So I want to see how this person communicates. So I'm going to keep communicating with you because if you get hired here, there's going to be a whole lot of back and forth. So if you can't do back and forth in the hiring process, you damn sure can't do the job. Everybody understand? So if I'm Google or Facebook hiring a coder or a programmer, I'm gonna have you do some coding because that's what you're gonna be doing when you get the job. So the hiring process should be reflective of the work. Everybody understand what I'm saying here? Okay. So I want to know how a person communicates. I want to know how poised they are, how much attention they pay to detail. I want to know how well they can articulate. Can they communicate smoothly? I hire often people who are from outside the United States. They're not native English speakers. So I want to make sure they can communicate in proper English the right way. And we know sometimes they're using AI bots, etc., to translate things and make sure they say it in proper English. But I will find out sooner or later. This is why eventually we get to the point of actually having a real conversation where they can't use AI, the software. But the whole point is, this is why you have an arduous, tedious process to make sure you're not missing any details. So for particular positions, you need to know what skills are needed, what attributes are needed, and you should be looking for those in the hiring process. So again, other jobs, you may do it other ways, but it should be reflective of what you're asking of someone. Whole point, folks, is that there must be a hiring process. So that word process, I've used it over and over again here today. I hope you are noticing that. Let's recap today's class, which is how I hire staff. Now, again, I've had this asked of me by coaching clients. I had this asked of me of mastermind members. So I'm going to lay it out here today. Again, this is high level. There are many details under each one of these points. If you're working with me as a coach, I can help you with, especially when you're in the hiring process, depending on who and what you're hiring for. Number one, your job posting is the key. Job posting will filter out the wrong people, filter in the right people. And the better that posting is, that is the most important thing. Same thing as like a prompt when you're using artificial intelligence. Same thing as your marketing when you're sourcing sales leads. That is the key to making everything else work. Number two, hire slowly, fire quickly, which means you need to take your time in hiring a person. People tend to value and will be more loyal to and do a better job at things that they had to work in order to acquire, such as a job. Things that people get relatively easy, they usually quit it relatively easy. And again, look at your own life. You've done this. Things that you had to work to get, you value. Things that you got pretty easy, you don't value. Simple as that. Human nature. And number three, make your hiring process reflective of the job. So depending on who or what you're hiring, who you're hiring and what you're hiring for, you can think of what are some things that are going to come with this job and set the hiring process up so that you can test those abilities in that person before you hire them, so you're not making too many mistakes. And any mistakes that get made in the hiring process are your fault as the hiring manager, not the fault of the prospects. Never blame the prospect. It is not their fault. It is your fault. And this is why you need to be in a university, so I can help you make sure you have the right type of listing, the right type of process, and you're looking for the right type of people for the right job. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, get into our program. You can learn more about working with me directly once you're in our program and everything else to ascend your way up. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all